You know, growing up in a world that constantly tried to tell me who I should be, how I should behave, and what I was capable of, it was easy to feel everything. To get overwhelmed. To react. I've had moments where I was angry, moments where I was hurt, frustrated, misunderstood, and completely unsure of what to do next. But if there's one lesson I learned early on, it was this: if you let your emotions lead you, they will betray you. Emotions are wild, they're unpredictable, they're honest, yes, but they are not always right. And they are definitely not always useful when you're trying to build something bigger than your moment. That I've cried behind closed doors and then walked into a room like I owned it. Not because I was faking confidence, but because I decided that no one needed to see the storm, only the sail. You can feel deeply and still act wisely. That's power. That's strategy. That's control. It's not about suppressing how you feel, it's about making sure your feelings don't hijack your decisions. Because when we let emotions run the show, we end up reacting instead of thinking. We make choices based on temporary feelings, and later, we carry the permanent consequences. That I've been told no so many times. It became a rhythm in my life. But I didn't let rejection become my compass. I let it become my training. Every time I was dismissed, every time I was underestimated, I went back, studied, strategized, refined myself. I didn't post about it, I didn't announce how I felt about it, I worked in silence and delivered in power. You don't have to shout every time you're shaken. You don't have to prove a point in the heat of the moment. You prove your point with your performance, not your emotion. There's something truly dangerous about moving emotionally in a world that rewards strategy. The harsh truth is that emotion is easy. Emotion is instant. But strategy is mature. Strategy takes restraint. It takes patience. It means you know where you're going, and you're not going to let every passing wave knock you off course. Emotions are like the weather, they change all the time. Strategy is like architecture, you design it, you plan it, and you build it, one solid step at a time. When you know that, you stop letting how you feel dictate what you do. There were times I wanted to scream at the unfairness, to lash out, to react in the moment, to defend myself instantly. But I realized something: silence and success are louder than any argument. The world may expect you to break down, but your power is in the breakthrough. And breakthroughs never come from chaos, they come from clarity. And clarity only comes when you stop acting on emotion and start moving with purpose. When I was transitioning between Bollywood and Hollywood, it wasn't just about the glitz and glamour. It was about mindset. I wasn't just changing industries, I was shifting cultures, systems, perceptions. That kind of move cannot be done emotionally. It requires study. It requires patience. It requires tenacity. It requires timing. I knew I couldn't just walk in with passion and expect the world to rearrange itself for me. I had to observe the patterns, identify the gaps, and then strike when the moment was right. That is strategy. That is vision. So many of us want results right away. We want the world to understand us the moment we speak. We want success in the heat of inspiration. But real power is in the slow burn. It's in the waiting. It's in the watching. You move when it's time, not when you're triggered. You don't speak just to be heard, you speak to be remembered. You don't act just to respond, you act to dominate. That's the kind of energy that takes you beyond the noise, beyond the trend, beyond the emotion. You have to ask yourself every day, are you being led by your feelings or by your vision? Because one will feed your ego, and the other will feed your future. One will make you feel good for a moment, the other will elevate you for a lifetime. I had to train myself to sit with discomfort without reacting. To hear criticism without collapsing. To face betrayal without becoming bitter. That doesn't make me cold. That makes me committed, to my purpose, to my path, and to myself. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against emotions. I'm an emotional person. I cry in movies. I care deeply. I get angry when I see injustice. I celebrate when I see progress. But when it comes to my journey, my career, my mission, I don't let emotion drive the car. It can sit in the back seat, it can scream, cry, laugh, panic, but I'm holding the wheel, and my strategy is the map. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is nothing. Not every challenge deserves a response. Not every insult deserves your energy. Not every failure needs to be explained. When you start valuing your vision more than your validation, your entire posture changes. You don't beg for seats at tables, you build your own. You don't chase opportunity, you attract it by being prepared when it finally knocks. That it's easy to post your pain. It's harder to process it, learn from it, and use it as ammunition in your next victory. Moving with strategy means understanding. In that not everything needs to be shared, not every story needs to be told, until it becomes a testimony. You speak after you win. You post after you prove. You shout after you shine. Some people will call you cold. Some will say you're too calculated. Let them. You're not here to comfort everyone's opinion, you're here to command your destiny. The world doesn't reward raw emotion, it rewards execution. And if you can feel everything but still move like nothing can shake you, that's power. That's leadership. That's legacy. Sometimes people think strategy means you're heartless, but it's the opposite. Strategy means your heart is protected, not exposed. It means you don't give people easy access to your peace, your focus, your energy. You become deliberate with your moves. And when you're deliberate, you don't lose yourself in the chaos. You rise above it. There's so much noise out there, opinions, gossip, criticism, applause, temptation. But if you want longevity, if you want impact, if you want real fulfillment, you can't respond to every echo. You have to respond to your purpose. There have been many moments in my life where the easy choice would have been to react. To speak up just to feel powerful in that moment. To defend myself just to satisfy my ego. But power that comes from emotion is short-lived. It fades the moment the feeling fades. And I didn't work this hard to live in temporary victories. I want legacy. I want my choices to have roots, not just wings. I want to know that every step I take today is shaping something for tomorrow. And that takes discipline. That takes knowing how to pause, not pounce. The truth is, emotional decisions usually come from insecurity. From fear. From the need to be seen, to be heard, to be accepted instantly. But strategic decisions come from self-trust. From clarity. From being okay with being misunderstood right now because you're focused on being undeniable later. People who move with emotion are often chasing approval. People who move with strategy already know who they are. And when you know who you are, you don't have to convince anyone. You let your work, your consistency, and your energy do the speaking for you. I've walked into rooms where I wasn't expected to be more than a face. I've sat at tables where I wasn't supposed to have a voice. But I didn't shout to be heard. I stayed quiet, I studied the game, I chose my moment, and when I moved, it wasn't random, it was calculated. I was playing chess while they were playing checkers. That's how you shift power. Not by yelling louder, but by moving smarter. Because what you say in a room will be forgotten, but what you build outside of it will be remembered. There's something beautiful about letting time speak for you. Letting results become your response. That requires a level of emotional maturity not everyone is willing to develop. But the ones who do. They stand out. They command respect without demanding it. They don't crumble under pressure because they're not chasing every shiny distraction. They're focused. And focus is a luxury in a world of noise. You don't get to stay focused unless you learn to silence the part of you that wants to react to everything. Every time you let anger speak before your wisdom does, you lose a piece of your power. Every time you let sadness drown your discipline, you pause your momentum. Every time you move based on a moment instead of a mission, you delay your own elevation. And believe me, I've done it. I've let emotion win. I've cried in rooms where I should've strategized. I've spoken too soon, and regretted the chaos it created. But I learned. And I adapted. Because life doesn't reward who feels the most, it rewards who acts with purpose. That there's a moment in every journey where you have to decide, do I want to feel better now, or do I want to grow stronger long term? That moment is where the emotional path and the strategic path split. The emotional path gives you relief, but the strategic path gives you results. You can vent, or you can work. You can retaliate, or you can rise. You can post about the pain, or you can put your head down and build something no one can deny. The choice is always yours. And it's not easy, I know. Strategy takes patience. Emotion demands attention right now. But attention fades. Strategy multiplies. Every strong woman I know, every leader, every trailblazer, has had to learn this lesson the hard way. You will be provoked. You will be tested. You will be betrayed. But your growth doesn't come from reacting, it comes from redirecting. From shifting your energy back into your craft, your calling, your self-mastery. You are not here to prove people wrong. You are here to prove yourself right. That requires inner discipline. It requires saying no to battles that don't deserve your weapons. It requires trusting that silence is sometimes louder than explanation. That I've been told to smile more, to soften up, to not be so calculated. But if you want to be taken seriously, you have to master the art of emotional distance. You can be passionate and poised. You can care deeply and still move strategically. You can have fire in your soul and still be the calmest person in the room. That's what makes you unstoppable. Not your rage. Not your breakdowns. But your ability to walk through fire and not burn everything in your path. And let's be clear, strategy doesn't mean you're passive. It doesn't mean you let people walk over you. It means you choose your battles. You save your energy for moments that actually matter. You know the difference between noise and opportunity. And you never let temporary emotions destroy permanent progress. You build, you plan, you pivot, but you don't react to every trigger. That's how empires are built. Not with emotion. With vision. Sometimes it's about biting your tongue. Sometimes it's about walking away. Sometimes it's about saying no to something that looks good right now because you're building something great later. The world won't always understand it. But they don't need to. Strategy is a lonely road. It's quiet. It's disciplined. But it leads to places emotion could never take you. It leads to power. To peace. To purpose. That I've been through seasons where I had to pretend I was okay, just so I could stay focused. I had to put on my game face while carrying heartbreak. That's not weakness. That's strength. That's commitment. That's what it means to be strategic. You don't let your pain define your performance. You let your performance become the proof of your power. That is the mindset that separates those who rise from those who react. There's a reason why people who move with strategy always look calm under pressure. It's not that they don't feel the weight, it's that they've trained themselves to carry it without breaking. They've learned to pause before they speak, to think before they leap, to observe before they react. That kind of poise doesn't come from talent or luck, it comes from experience. From failing. From hurting. From knowing what it feels like to act emotionally and then have to clean up the mess afterward. And deciding never again. So they plan. They measure. They stay 10 steps ahead even when it looks like they're standing still. There's a war going on around us every day, one between chaos and clarity. And the people who make it to the top aren't the ones who shout the loudest or react the fastest. They're the ones who keep their minds sharp while the world tries to distract them. They're the ones who don't panic when things fall apart. Because they're not just responding to the moment, they're anchored in a bigger mission. When you have a strategy, setbacks don't scare you. Criticism doesn't shake you. You start to realize that most of the noise is just that, noise. Temporary. Loud. Unimportant in the long run. That I've had people try to pull me into their drama. Into their chaos. Into emotional traps. Sometimes it came dressed as friendship. Sometimes as competition. And sometimes it came from within me, my own doubts, fears, insecurities trying to take the wheel. But if you listen closely, there's a voice inside that says, hold on. Wait. Breathe. Think. That's the voice of your future self telling you to stop throwing punches at shadows. You don't need to fight everything that annoys you. You don't need to respond to every insult. You don't need to rush into every opportunity that looks shiny on the outside. Strategic living means being able to say, this doesn't deserve my energy. This isn't aligned with my vision. This can wait. Or this ends here. There's something powerful about a person who doesn't let emotion rush their decisions. A person who can walk away from chaos, even if it costs them temporary comfort. You have to understand, what you feed grows. If you keep feeding your anger, your fear, your need to prove something to someone, you'll always be reactive. But if you feed your focus, your vision, your values, you become proactive. You start building instead of battling. You start choosing peace over pride. And that's when your whole energy shifts. You stop needing applause. You stop needing validation. Because you know exactly where you're going, and you're okay if no one else sees it yet. Strategy isn't just about planning your next move. It's about knowing when not to move. About trusting that silence is not weakness. It's protection. It's preparation. Sometimes you have to disappear for a while to get your mind right. To recenter. To recalibrate. Not everything needs to be shared. Not every success needs an announcement. Not every wound needs a witness. When you operate from strategy, you start understanding the difference between reaction and response. A reaction is impulsive. A response is intelligent. And your power lies in the pause between the two. I've been in spaces where I knew people were expecting me to fail. They were waiting for me to crack, to slip, to explode. And it would have been easy. It would have felt good, in the moment, to give in to that pressure. To lash out. To prove them wrong instantly. But instead, I smiled. I observed. I planned. Because the best clapback isn't loud, it's success. It's evolution. It's watching them underestimate you, and then watching them struggle to keep up when you rise quietly and powerfully. That's the satisfaction emotion can never give you. That's the reward strategy brings. You have to protect your mind like it's sacred ground. Because it is. What you allow in will eventually come out. If you constantly fill it with stress, resentment, or comparison, don't be surprised when your decisions start to reflect that. But if you fill it with clarity, with long-term thinking, with purposeful silence, your actions will follow. And they'll be sharp. Focused. Unapologetic. People won't always understand your silence, your boundaries, your choices, but that's the cost of strategy. It's not for public approval. It's for private alignment. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for how you preserve your peace. I've sat with people who made decisions based purely on emotion, business deals ruined because of pride, relationships ended because of miscommunication, careers paused because someone couldn't separate how they felt from what they needed to do. And I've also witnessed the opposite, people who felt everything, but still chose wisely. Who had every reason to explode, but decided to expand instead. That kind of self-control is a weapon. That kind of clarity is rare. And once you learn it, you don't unlearn it. You move differently. You speak less. You execute more. Let people call you cold. Let them think you're too calm, too quiet, too collected. That's their discomfort with your discipline. Emotion may be louder, but strategy is stronger. And when things go wrong, and they will, it's not your feelings that will save you. It's your plan. It's your preparation. It's your ability to see beyond the moment. To say, yes, I'm angry, but what's the smart move here? Yes, I'm hurt, but what will serve me long term? Yes, I'm tempted to react, but what will bring me closer to my vision? That's emotional intelligence. That's power. That's how leaders are made. This world is quick to reward people who show up emotionally, speak raw, act instantly, chase trends. But those rewards fade fast. The ones who last, the ones who create legacy, they aren't playing short games. They're investing in the marathon. They're not trying to be viral, they're trying to be timeless. And that requires strategy. It requires intention. It requires being able to feel everything and still move wisely. That's not weakness. That's mastery. You are allowed to feel. You are allowed to break down in private. You are allowed to scream, cry, collapse for a moment. But when you get up with a plan.